That's what I call a proper good barbecue. Welcome to the review for the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Now, I know I'm a little late to this party. I'm sorry. I've been watching so many 2024 releases. Like, shit, there's so many fucking good movies out there that sometimes I get to a particular review late. Or I'm working on a justified retrospective / big ass review of every single season. Speaking of which, season 2 will be coming out later today. But let's talk about the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Now, I want to highlight something, and this is unlike Baby Reindeer, where I said that was very much based on a true story. Now, the certain battles and the operation that happened is true. But keep in mind, this is a Guy Ritchie movie, which means it's exaggerated. And how I compare Guy Ritchie's film style is very much Quentin Tarantino-esque in that the fact that he has a lot of wordy scenes and a lot of exaggerated type situations. And I will get to that in my negatives. But as far as it goes, let me just give a brief rundown. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is the 2024 spy action comedy film directed and co-written and co-produced by Guy Ritchie, is starring Henry Cavill, Isa Gonzalez, Alan Rickson, Henry Golden from Crazy Rich Asian fame, and Alex Pettyfair. Based on the 2014 book, Churchill's Secret Warrior, the explosive true story of the Special Forces desperados of World War II by Damon Lewis, the film portrays the heavily fictionized version of Operation Postmaster. So, that's a mouthful. So what is the basic premise? There is the situation, and this was a real life operation. I do know about this. There were a certain British unit, and they do show the pictures. And I'll get to that as my negatives because it really does kind of break the illusions of the people who are supposed to portray these real life heroes. But this small unit was sent in, and during World War II, the U-boats were bombing the coastline to where the American fleet that was coming in for backup couldn't get in because the U-boats kept on blowing up all of the fleets that would try to drop in men. And then the British fleet couldn't get in, which means America didn't want to take a risk of dropping off their troops to the coast when their boats would have just been blown out of the water if the British Navy, which to Britain's credit, they have one of the best navies in the world, and they could not stop the British U-boats. So they sent a small task force called the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which was a code name for the special operatives who would go on this mission to take out the German U-boats. And that's the gist of this. Now, there's two ways to go with these historical dramas. And I've said this in my tier rankings. You can go watch those. Unfortunately, there won't be a tier ranking tonight because I have computer problems and logistically the people can't get together to do it. But you've seen my tier rankings on this. You know, I'm very much about historical accuracy. You could go a little bit crazy. Nothing's ever accurate, but I do like things to be as accurate as possible. And the crazy part about this movie is the characterization is wildly inaccurate, but the mission is very accurate. And so what do I mean? Basically, the mission and how it plays out is historically how the mission happened and how it played out. But the characters and the casting is very much not the actual characters. They race swapped and gender changed in this. And the funny part is it was a race swap and gender swap that's confirmed at the end of the movie when they show the pictures of the actual people who were in this unit, which is highly annoying. But with that being said, the actors embodied the spirit of the characters they were portraying. And now look, I'm going to get this right out of the way. I am not a fan of race swaps and gender swaps when it comes to historical movies because that is based on actual figures in history that are well known. That's, to me, not something you could really worry swap. But with that being said, there's something to be said about people portraying the people in this unit that has the personality of the characters they are embodying. And these are very much rich characters. So this movie is a very interesting movie for me to talk about because this movie stays as grounded as you could be in a movie like this, and then towards the second, third act just goes fucking bonkers and almost turns into like a video game comical how fucking invincible these guys are. And look, historically none of these guys died, and I get it, but it feels very Quentin Tarantino-esque with what he goes for. And I know what people are going to say, but there's Inglourious Bastards, and that whole fucking thing was totally not true to the history. The last part was sort of wish fulfillment. But yeah, everybody loves that movie. And I'll be honest with you, I don't really like the third act of that movie. I like the first two acts more than the third act. But it's Quentin Tarantino, and I understand, and it's loosely based on a few things in history. But none of it is really real, just what they're pulling from. This is an actual operation that happened in history. With that being said, the wild stuff and the situations that happen are very true to what actually happened in the operation, but the things they put them in the way they kind of make them invincible feels a bit cartoonish at a certain point. Henry Cavill is fucking ridiculous in this movie, and I gotta say, I love it. He plays Gus Merch Phillips, the sort of leader. Isa Gonzalez plays Majora Stewart, and she's really good. Alan Rickson plays Anderson Lesson, who was a dude to use a bow and arrow to kill people. And I know what people say, well, bows and arrows, you're using guns, blah, blah, blah. Dude, have you ever seen those fucking arrows with the metal fucking tips? Those things will go through a window and hit you. So a lot of, and Henry Golding, of course, plays Freddy Alvarez. And Henry Golding is very good too. Like, everybody's good in this movie. There's only one poor cast, and that's Roy Kinnear as Winston Churchill. The Winston Churchill outfit literally breaks you from the immersion of this. He looks so bad. It looks like Roy Kinnear in a fat person suit. And his dialogue and the way he talked, it was very overdone. So I'd have to say the Winston Churchill of it was fucking god-awful. It breaks the immersion severely. But with that being said, I'm a sucker for war movies, and I'm a sucker for these actors. And I think what you have here is, if you're going in looking for a historical, accurate portrayal of this operation, this is not the movie for you. It's very much far-fetched. The end kind of goes into almost video game territory, comical with how invincible these guys are. But I gotta say, it's still a lot of fucking fun. It's my same feelings I had for The Fall Guy. This isn't an offensively bad movie. I don't think this really disrespects the people who served in this operation. What's up, Kiefer? I'm doing my non-spoiler review for the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. So you can watch this, no spoilers. Like I was saying, I don't think this movie is going to be watched for the historical accuracy of it all. I think this movie is one of those that you could just watch and have a good time with. Now, like I said, the situation and how it plays out is true to the operation, believe it or not. The wild shit that happens, the situation that unfolds, that's very accurate, and it does follow the documented way that this mission went down. However, with that being said, and I've always said this, the characters become very cartoonish at a point, and I think it's very immersion breaking to the world that they're setting up, because I wouldn't have a problem if this played it goofy and kind of ridiculous from the beginning, which it kind of does. But like towards the end, it really leans heavy into unbelievability. For me personally, and you guys, if you're on my channel, you know I served. I feel with these movies, you go one way or another. When you try to do both, you get into dangerous territory of disrespecting the situation that these real life people were in and what this story is about. But with that being said, it is a Guy Ritchie movie. I've been watching Guy Ritchie movies my whole life. I like them as much as I like Quentin Tarantino. So you know what you're getting when you go into it. But I have to be honest, this to me is the same as the Fall Guys, only it's based on something historically that happened. It's a 7.5 for me. It's a good time. It's inoffensive fun. But at the end of the day, when I'm thinking about like, and don't get me wrong, because I know what people are thinking. I've given it a lot of 7/8 ratings and it sounds disingenuous. These are fun, good movies. And I would still recommend you go see it in the theater because it's great to see it on the big screen. But as someone who has to review these movies and not hand out 9s or 10s or 8s or things like that, like the candy, just for me, it falls in that realm of Fall Guy where I had a good time. I enjoyed the experience. I was in the moment. A couple of things annoyed me, but for the most part, it's inexpensive or it's inoffensive. Inexpensive. Fuck, going to the movies is expensive these days. It's inoffensive fun. It's a good popcorn flick. Shit does get wild. Everybody's likable in the movie. Nobody's overdoing it except for Roy Kinnear, who plays Winston Churchill. God, that is terrible. That almost takes you out of it. But other than that, nothing really got my goat on this. And look, I'm not one of those, if you're a big history buff and you're like, oh, it's got to be down to the detail, don't fucking see this movie. This movie isn't for you. Anything that's based on true historical events or whatever, these people are going to pick apart. And look, 90% of the time, these things aren't exciting. It's a lot of waiting around. There's one battle, and then it's over. You know, in that situation, there's only so much excitement you can pull for the little moments. So I think for what it is, it does capture, and Guy Ritchie captures that sense of enthralling you and getting you invested by making the characters very animated and larger than life. The thing that got me and that really peeved me off about the whole thing is, if you're going to do something where you wildly change the characters, don't flash the pictures of the actual people at the end of your movie, because that does make you question a lot of the film. Like, wow, none of the people you got actually look like the people who served. Like, that was my big gripe. Look, I know it's a small nitpick. It's small, but it's like the show Band of Brothers. They flash the pictures of the people at the end of every episode of Band of Brothers when they're doing the things where the soldiers or the real life soldiers are actually talking. And look, I know this isn't a Steven Spielberg thing. He's not going for realism, but just follow me for a second. They flash the pictures and they show you the locations that they shot at and the location of the battle, and everything looks fucking similar. So if you're going for a wild facsimile of a war and it's not the actual thing, then don't show the actual people or the locations like Quentin Tarantino did. Just be like, yeah, I took bits and pieces of this book, but this is not, and it leaves the movie in a weird place. Like, he wanted to respect and do a tribute to these people and these men and women, which is all great, and the service they provided, but he still was hamstrung by things he had to put into his movie, and it's just weird. It's just fucking weird. I don't like the montage at the end. That's where it feels kind of disingenuous to what the movie was like. And like I said, that plays a big part into my review because I am military, and that's just something that bugs me. But for everybody else, you might not have that gripe. It's a small gripe, I know, but this is what I do. And I got to nitpick things that bother me. And for me, it's just kind of fucking crazy. You would show the actual people of the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare and They look nothing like the actors you got. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Leave me in comments below. Let me know if you feel the same way. But it feels weird. Feels weird. It's a weird creative choice. I don't understand it. But other than that, nothing in this movie really offended me except for the portrayal of Winston Churchill. It was terrible. I'm sorry. I love Roy Kinnear. I think he's a great actor, but it was fucking terrible. It was the worst part of the movie. Probably the thing that brought it down for me, honestly, 2 points, was his portrayal of Winston Churchill. He just, it was like someone trying to act like someone British and what they think the person sounds like. He's like, okay, well, we're going to go do this, chops. It's like if I tried to act like Winston Churchill, I'm pretty sure I could do it a hell of a lot better. That's all I'm saying. Now, I'm not an actor. I love Rory Kinnear. I respect him as an actor. He's a great actor, but he is like, I loved him in Penny Dreadful. He's very British. It should fit. But the suit they give him and the mannerisms he takes, he just doesn't hit Winston Churchill for me. And these are the two biggest gripes I have with this movie. And I know it's stupid. I know it's a little nitpicky. But honestly, the movie is fun. It's a solid film. And this is what I do. I gotta nitpick shit sometimes. But with that being said, it's a solid 7.5 for me. I like the film. I don't think it was a waste of my money. I think you will have some great fun if you go and see it, but just prepare yourself for the worst Winston Churchill impression you've ever heard and for a little bit of goofiness. I don't think that people should go into this expecting historical accuracy or for this to be even close to the people that served this mission. And as somebody who served, I just like the people to more resemble the person they're playing. I think if you're going to do that tribute reel at the end and you're going to credit the soldiers and the brave men and women who fought in this service, in this operation, then you need to go all the way or don't go there at all. And it sounds like I'm offended. It sounds like I'm coming off like I'm pissed off or I don't like the movie. But honestly, I really do like the movie. It's a fun film. There's lots of violence. There's lots of gore. There's lots of situational humor. There's Guy Ritchie things that I appreciate a Guy Ritchie movie for. And if you guys know my feeling, if you watch our Guy Ritchie tier list for our Wednesday night tier list, I greatly respect him as a director, as a producer, and as a writer, and as a man who adapts these things onto the big screen. He is top tier, minus Aladdin, that never happened. Top tier, like, he's up there with the greats. My issue is when any director or studio does this shit and they adopt actual things and they don't give it the reverence and, quite honestly, the respect it deserves. That's my issue with it. But with that being said, I'm not going to grade on a curve. I'm not going to say this is a 4 or 5 because I personally had some kind of gripe with it. This is a solid 7. It's good fun. You know, you go, you eat some popcorn, you watch this, probably forget about it in a month. That's just my real deal honest answer. It's just like a dime a dozen, all of the other action movies that come out, except for it's got Guy Ritchie flair to it. But other than that, this isn't a movie I'd really probably go back to. If it's on, I'll watch it. Bet she hasn't seen it and she's curious, I'll throw it on. But it's not one I'm going to own. It's not one I'm going to rewatch again. And I'll probably forget the movie when my list comes up. It's just, it is what it is. It doesn't have anything unique that makes it stand out, except for it kind of feels like a video game towards the third act of this movie. It's just your typical average reinterpretation of a mission kind of movie that comes out every so often with great actors and great performances. But that's it. That's all this movie is. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's not doing anything special. Even adding Guy Ritchie, there's a bit in the second act that really doesn't feel like Guy Ritchie. Like, it feels kind of Quentin Tarantino-esque with the dialogue and trying to have the witty back and forth, only more Quentin and less Guy. And it's weird for me. So I know it sounds like I'm shitting on the film, but honestly, it's a 7.5. I enjoyed it. I think you could see worse. If you haven't seen things like, is Dune 2 still in the theaters? No, I don't think it is. If you haven't seen any of the other movies that I gave a 9 or 10 to, then this is a great film to see. And right now, really, we're kind of in a slump. I got to see what comes out this week, but I don't think it's anything that really knocked my socks off. So it's a good movie to see if you're bored, or if it comes on Amazon streaming, fuck it, give it a rent. It's fine. It is what it is. That's all I got. I'm not mad. I'm not happy. I'm just kind of like this movie. I'm very much in the middle. So if you like this video, please hit that like, share, and if you're new and you come across me and you like these styles of reviews, hit that subscribe, all the YouTube bullshit. Thank you, everybody who's been watching these. I've been getting some good feedback, and thank you, everybody who's been passing these along, and thank you, everybody who's been watching our shows. Tonight, there will not be a tier list because the fellow people of the panel have different things to do, but I may be doing a different kind of stream tonight, so stay tuned for that. I will be on the X and all that bullshit to tweet that out, but anyways, thank you very much for watching. And as always, remember, there is only one rule here in the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Fandom Zone. Kneel before Zod. Or, the button could just work. Fucking motherfucker.